Located in southeastern Europe, Moldova is bordered on the west by Romania and on the north, south, and east by Ukraine. Most of its territory lies between the area's two main rivers, the Dniester and the Prut. The Dniester forms a small part of Moldova's border with Ukraine in the northeast and southeast, but it mainly flows through the eastern part of the country, separating Bessarabia and Transnistria. The Prut River forms Moldova's entire western boundary with Romania. The Danube touches the Moldovan border at its southernmost tip, and forms the border for 200 meters. Phytogeographically, Moldova is shared between the Central European and Eastern European provinces of the Circumboreal region within the Boreal Kingdom. According to the WWF, the territory of Moldova can be subdivided into three ecoregions: the Central European mixed forests, the East European forest steppe, and Pontic steppe. Basic data. Location: Eastern Europe, northeast of Romania. Geographic coordinates: 47 degrees 00 N, 29 degrees 00 E, 47.000 degrees north, 29.000 degrees east, 47.000, 29.000. Map references: Commonwealth of Independent States Area. Total: 33,851 square kilometers land, 32,891 square kilometers water, 960 square kilometers area. Comparative: slightly larger than Maryland, United States, slightly larger than Vancouver Island, Canada. Land boundaries: total 1,390 kilometers. Border countries: Romania 450 kilometers, Ukraine 940 kilometers. Coastline: 0 kilometers. Maritime claims: none. Natural resources: lignite, phosphorites, gypsum. Arable land: limestone. Land use: arable land, 53.47%. Permanent crops, 8.77%. Other, 37.75%. Irrigated land, 2,283 square kilometers. Total renewable water resources, 11.65 kilometers. 3 natural hazards: landslides. Extreme points: the lowest point, Nitru River -2 meters. The highest point, Balanisti Hill +430 meters. North extreme, Naslabsha. South extreme, Giurgiulisti. West extreme, Kriva. East extreme, Palanca. Climate: Moldova's proximity to the Black Sea gives it a mild and sunny climate. Moldova's climate is moderately continental. The summers are warm and long, with temperatures averaging about 20 degrees Celsius, and the winters are relatively mild and dry, with January temperatures averaging -4 degrees Celsius. Annual rainfall, which ranges from around 6 centimeters in the north to 4 centimeters in the south, can vary greatly. Long dry spells are not unusual. The heaviest rainfall occurs in early summer and again in October. Heavy showers and thunderstorms are common. Because of the irregular terrain, heavy summer rains often cause erosion and river silting. Weather records: the highest temperature ever recorded, +41.5 degrees Celsius on July 21, 2007. The lowest temperature ever recorded, -35.5 degrees Celsius on January 20, 1963. Chisinau's climate, Balti's climate, Tiraspol's climate, Cahul's climate. Topography: most of Moldova's territory is a moderate hilly plateau cut deeply by many streams and rivers. Geologically, Moldova lies primarily on deep sedimentary rock that gives way to harder crystalline outcroppings only in the north. Moldova's hills are part of the Moldavian Plateau, which geologically originate from the Carpathian Mountains. The northern landscape of Moldova is characterized by gently rolling uplands of the Dniester Hills interlaced with small flat plains in the valleys of the numerous creeks. These hills, which have an average altitude of 240 meters and a maximum altitude of 320 meters, can be divided into the northern Moldavian hills and the Dniester Ridge, and continue further occupying the northern part of the Chernovtsi Oblast in Ukraine. The eastern slopes of the Dniester Ridge form the high right bank of the Dniester River. The Moldavian plain has an average of 200 meters and a maximum altitude of 250 meters, and can be divided into the Balti Steppe and the Middle Prut Valley. Originally forested, it has been extensively deforested for agriculture during the 19th and 20th centuries. In contrast to the region to the north and south, which is more slant, this area is referred to as plain, although it has relief very different from that of a flat land, and vegetation different from that of the steppe. The hills of central Moldova, the central Moldavian plateau, at an average elevation of about 350 to 400 meters, are ridges interlaced by deep, flat valleys, ravines, and landslide-scoured depressions. Steep forest-clad slopes account for much of the terrain, where the most common trees are hornbeam, oak, linden, maple, wild pear, and wild cherry. The term Kodri refers more generally to all the forests between the Carpathians and the Dniester River, and even more generally to all forests in the area of the Carpathians, yet since in Moldova most of them were preserved in the central part, Kodri sometimes can colloquially refer to the remaining forests in the hills west and north of Chisinau. The Dniester Ridge borders central Moldavian plateau to the north along the river route. The plateau can be divided into 5 parts. Siuluk-Solonet Hills, elongated in the north along the right side of the Route River, 1,690 square kilometers. Kornisty Hills, also known as Kordi Hills, 4,740 square kilometers. Lower Dniester Hills, elongated to the south of the Botna River, 3,040 square kilometers. Tyarsy Hills, elongated in the south along the left side of the Prut River, 3,550 square kilometers, and between the latter and the Prut River, the lower Prut Valley, 1,810 square kilometers. The country's highest point, Balanisty Hill, which reaches 1,407 or 1,410 feet, depending on the source, is situated in the Kornisty Hills, the western part of the central Moldavian plateau. Northwest of it are the Siuluk-Solonet Hills. In the south, the Tyarsy Hills are a prolongation, and run to the south parallel to the lower Prut Valley. To the southeast, the southern part of the central Moldavian plateau, which averages 150 to 200 meters, max 250 meters, and has numerous ravines and gullies, gradually vanish into the extensive Bugia plain, with most of the Budjak region already in Ukraine. Transnistria has spurs of the Podolin Plateau, which are cut into by tributaries of the Dniester River. The southern half of Transnistria, the lower Dniester plain, can be regarded as the western end of the Eurasian steppe, and has an average elevation of 100 meters, with a maximum of 170 meters. The high right bank and low left bank of the Dniester are in sharp contrast here, where visibility is not impeded by forests. About 75% of Moldova is covered by a soil type called black earth or Chernozem. In the northern hills, more clay-textured soils are found. In the south, red earth soil is predominant. The soil becomes less fertile toward the south but can still support grape and sunflower production. The hills have woodland soils, while a small portion in southern Moldova is in the steppe zone, although most steppe areas today are cultivated. The lower reaches of the Prut and Dniester rivers and the southern river valleys are saline marshes. Drainage in Moldova is to the south, toward the Black Sea lowlands, and eventually into the Black Sea, but only 8 rivers and creeks extend more than 100 kilometers. Moldova's main river, the Dniester, is navigable throughout almost the entire country, and in warmer winters it does not freeze over. The Prut River is a tributary of the Danube, which it joins at the far southwestern tip of the country. Over 95% of the water circulation in Moldova flows into one of the two rivers, the Prut or Dniester. Of Moldova's well-developed network of about 3,000 creeks and streams, all draining south to the Black Sea, only 246 exceed 6 miles in length, and only 8 exceed 60 miles. Underground water, extensively used for the country's water supply, includes about 2,200 natural springs. The terrain favors construction of reservoirs of various size, elevation extremes. Lowest point. An unnamed point on the bank of the Dniester River, 2 meters. Highest point. Delual Balanisti, 430 meters. Natural habitat. Moldova's natural habitat is characterized by forest steppes, a temperate climate habitat type composed of grassland interspersed with areas of woodland or forest. A belt of forest steppes cross Eurasia from eastern Europe to eastern Siberia, forming a transition between temperate broadleaf and mixed forests and temperate grasslands. In the 19th century, Moldova witnessed a sharp decrease in the forested areas, sacrificed for agriculture due to rich soil. Environment. Historical references. In the 5th century BC, Herodotus visited the countryside between the rivers Dniester and Prut and described the place as a plain with deep black earth, rich in grass and well irrigated. Lithuanian Prince Jogaila spoke of Moldavia as a rich and fructiferous country. According to the testimony of Venetian Matthias de Murano, the country was very well located, rich with cattle and all kinds of fruits. Pastures are perfect. Rich natural resources of Moldavia always attracted nomads. Fleeing their devastating incursions, inhabitants of Moldavia left the brooded places and hid in forests. French knight Gilbert de Lannoy, who visited these places in 1421, has mentioned insignificant population of the region. We moved through large deserts. Councillor of Hungarian King George Ryersdorf was complaining of travel through empty, uninhabited lands. In 1541, he produced the first geographical map of the Principality of Moldavia, with rivers Dniester and Prut shown, as well as cities and other localities, but also highlighted large steppes. A map of Moldavia was drawn by the German diplomat Sigismund von Herberstein. On his map one can see woodless spaces, Balti steppe in the north, and Bugia steppe in the south. In the 17th century, pilgrims Pavel Alepsky and Yoan Lukyanov traveled on their way to the Holy Land through Moldavia. These two travelers were struck by the disastrous state of the land that used to blossom. It better be not ravaged, as no other such can be found. It may yield any kind. English traveller John Bell, who also visited Moldavia, and wrote about fecund soils and small nice towns, situated next to Route. Russian geographer K. Lakshman described Balti steppe in the beginning of the 19th century. To the north is located a steppe with almost no trees at all. To the northwest the steppe is not as woodless. Scientist K. Arseniev mentioned that the north of Bessarabia is a genuine mix of arid steppes with most fertile pastures, rich meadows and gardens. Travelers and scholars were amazed by the contrast between rich natural resources of Moldavia, Balti steppe, and its low population in war-torn 18th century. Pitiful state of agriculture, as well as the poverty of the local population. Desert, waste, naked steppe. The settling among limitless expanses of Balti steppe happened not in accordance with logic, but against it. The life of remote ancestors of Baltiers was full of difficulties and crosses, but they managed to resist. Moldavian fields, as described by both ancient and contemporary writers, are great in their fertility, by far surpassing the richness of the mountains. Will someone describe Bessarabian steppes? Indeed, they do merit a description. However, for this, one needs the talent of unforgettable Gogol, who has so beautifully depicted us the steppes of his homeland. And Bessarabian steppes are not less beautiful. Current issues: Moldova's communist-era environmental legacy, like that of many other former Soviet republics, is one of environmental degradation. Agricultural practices such as overuse of pesticides and artificial fertilizers were intended to increase agricultural output at all costs, without regard for the consequences. As a result, Moldova's soil and groundwater were contaminated by lingering chemicals, some of which have been banned in the West. Such practices continue in Moldova to the present day. In the early 1990s, use of pesticides in Moldova averaged approximately 20 times that of other former Soviet republics and Western nations. In addition, poor farming methods, such as destroying forests to plant vineyards, have contributed to the extensive soil erosion to which the country's rugged topography is already prone. International environmental agreements. Party 2. Air pollution, persistent organic pollutants, biodiversity, climate change, Kyoto Protocol, desertification, endangered species, hazardous wastes, ozone layer protection, ship pollution, wetlands signed, but not ratified.